Hey, good morning. It's Patricia Murphy. It's Wednesday. This is Seattle Now. Amazon workers in New York City made history last week by being the first U.S. warehouse to unionize. But this is just the beginning for the Amazon labor union. In a minute, Business Insider reporter Katherine Leong will tell us why this group is different and what challenges lay ahead. But first, let's get you caught up. The concrete strike is still on, but the concrete is flowing again at the West Seattle Bridge. Deliveries started up again yesterday as union drivers agreed to come back temporarily to help get the bridge back open. There's just 30 truckloads to go. An updated timeline is still to come. The last estimate was early July, but that was before the strike slowed things down. Meanwhile, Seattle-based Holland America is pitching in to help Ukrainian refugees. They're canceling cruises to give them a temporary home on one of their ships. The company says the boat will be docked in Rotterdam for 3 months and serve as a fully staffed floating home for 1,500 people, including meals, housekeeping, and internet. Holland America is HQ'd here, but was originally founded in Rotterdam. The move is part of a larger pledge by the Netherlands to house 50,000 people fleeing the war. And 18 spots across the state, like lakes and creeks, are getting new names. All the current names include a word considered to be a slur against Native American women. We won't say it here. You can see a list of all the locations and options for new names at regulations.gov. And the Department of Interior says, get in touch. You can weigh in on which ones they should choose. Amazon has spent years pushing back on attempts to unionize in its warehouses. But last week, one group of workers succeeded. The company's JFK 8 warehouse on Staten Island became the first Amazon location in the U.S. to win a union election. But that's just the beginning of the story. Other warehouses are voting soon on if they should join up, and the brand new union still has to negotiate a contract with the tech giant. And right now, it looks unlikely that Amazon will back away from its anti-union stance. Katherine Leong is here to talk to us about what the road ahead looks like. She covers Amazon for Business Insider. Katherine, really glad you're here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, Trish.
So, big win last week for workers in Staten Island, New York. Votes also tallied last week in the union election in Bessemer, Alabama. Real quick, what's the status of that Bessemer election?
The Bessemer election, we won't know where that's going to end up, probably for a couple of weeks at least. There's a margin of about 140 votes between the no votes, which won narrowly in that election, and the yes votes. There are 416 contested ballots. The union is going to ask the National Labor Relations Board, the federal agency that oversees workers' rights to bargain collectively, to open those ballots. But even if the NLRB allows that to happen, it's not clear whether the vote will change.
Interesting. So Staten Island was successful, clear win there. Were you actually surprised by either one of these outcomes?
You know, I was shocked that the Staten Island vote was successful. It is very rare for anyone to win a union election against a company that's as large as Amazon. It's much more rare for that election to come at the hands of a union that is not affiliated with an established union. The Amazon Labor Union, the union representing folks in Staten Island, is new. It's upstart. It's organized by current and former workers. It didn't exist until a year ago. It's running on a budget of roughly $120,000 for the past year, raised in 2 GoFundMe campaigns. This is not a union that has a lot of experience doing this. And so, yes, I was very surprised that the ALU won that election. And frankly, I was surprised that the outcome in Bessemer was as close as it was. I thought that we would be seeing something more similar to what happened in a previous union election in Bessemer, Alabama, where Amazon steamrolled the union by a margin of nearly 2-1.
Yeah. It seems like the message for the union got out even a little bit there in Bessemer during that time. Did something change over the last year to make these 2 elections so much more in favor of unionizing than we saw last year in Bessemer?
I think 2 things changed. First, the severity of the pandemic has lessened slightly. Workers are able to talk to each other face to face now much more easily than they were 18 months ago, 2 years ago when the Bessemer campaign was first happening. The union in Bessemer was able to go door to door and talk to workers. They weren't able to do that for the first time around. In Staten Island, unionizing workers filed sort of a flurry of unfair labor practices charges against Amazon. That resulted in workers being able to get access to the facility during the workday to be able to talk to their colleagues, even if they weren't scheduled to work, about the benefits of forming a union. I think that proved to be really dispositive. But overall, I think the biggest thing that changed is just a growing understanding among workers, among young people especially, that they are able to do this, that they are able to form a union. We've seen a successful campaign at Starbucks. We've seen a successful campaign at REI. We've seen strikes at John Deere facilities. There is, I think, a gathering cloud of union activity. And I think more and more workers, I think more and more young people are seeing this as a way to ensure rights in their workplace that they hadn't considered in the past.
Katherine, you went to Staten Island and talked to the unionizing workers there. What did you hear from them about working at Amazon and why they decided to join this union or not?
You know, almost as soon as I got there, I sensed that the vibe in Staten Island was much different than it was in Bessemer. Workers there have genuine grievances against the company. They saw Amazon fire the lead Amazon labor union organizer, Chris Smalls, at the beginning of the pandemic after Smalls organized a walkout in what he said was a protest over Amazon's unsafe practices at the time. They have also seen how Amazon discusses workers behind closed doors after Smalls was fired. Vice obtained a leaked memo where Amazon General Counsel David Zapolsky referred to Smalls as, quote, not smart or articulate, end quote. I think that sparked a lot of resentment among some workers there. And Smalls' attitude since in being so outspoken about unionizing, I think inspired a lot of hope that by banding together, by forming into a union, these workers could affect change at their warehouse.
It's going to be really interesting to see where this leads, Katherine. I wonder how Amazon is going to respond to this. They've got a reputation for being aggressively anti-union. In Staten Island, they fired Chris Smalls, the co-founder of that union. And at one point, they had people arrested. But like we just talked about, it seemed to galvanize the workers instead of dissuade them. What do you see happening now?
I think Amazon's overarching strategy with regards to the results in Staten Island is going to be delay, delay, delay. Yeah. As you said, the union in Staten Island, they're now turning to negotiating a contract with Amazon. It seems clear that Amazon will file an objection to the conduct of the election. That objection will go up before the federal board that oversees collective bargaining. It's likely the board will strike it down. But then Amazon will sit down at the bargaining table. It seems likely that the company could choose to drag their feet on bargaining. That could prove disastrous for the union, which has said that it will not start charging workers' dues until they have secured a first contract. And as we've said, the ALU is operating on a shoestring budget. They're relying primarily on contributions. The longer Amazon drags this out, the worse it's going to be for the union. But I think the overarching question is, how is Amazon going to respond to an upswell of organizing sentiment at its warehouses nationwide? You know, last time there was a union election in Bessemer, Amazon said that it would commit to become Earth's best employer and Earth's safest place to work. There are mixed opinions on whether that's actually happened in the roughly 1 year since Amazon announced those lofty goals. But that is one tactic that Amazon could pursue, to take workers' complaints seriously and begin to institute some of the changes that unionizing workers are asking for before they file for a union election. Something else that Amazon could choose to do is stick to its same old tactics, continue to hire these very expensive anti-union consultants, people who are earning as much as $3,200 a day to talk to workers and dissuade them from unionizing. That seemed to have had success at the first round in Bessemer. It seems to have had much less success this time around, both Bessemer and Staten Island.
You know, we just heard Starbucks. There's a lot of unionizing going on at Starbucks right now in stores, and Howard Schultz is back, and he's going on a listening tour. So this is another tactic that companies can take to try to dissuade unionizing, giving workers a little bit of what they want.
That's true. It remains to be seen whether Amazon might pursue something similar, but I think it's certainly possible.
Yeah. Okay. Katherine, JFK 8 workers have a union like we talked about. It's an upstart union, and they're working on a shoestring there. Is that potential timeout their biggest hurdle moving forward? Are there other things that could potentially hurt this union?
I think that one thing this union might need to be wary of is spreading itself too thin. In the days since its momentous victory last week, union co-founder Chris Smalls has said that he's been approached by workers from 50 other Amazon warehouses seeking to unionize. If the ALU tries to pursue organization efforts in all of those locations, I think they might rapidly find themselves to be overstretched while they're still negotiating this contract at JFK 8. And they're also about to have a union election at a facility next door, a delivery station called LDJ 5 that's also on Staten Island. That election is scheduled for the end of this month.
50 warehouses is a lot of interest, Katherine, and it reminds me of when the first Starbucks stores unionized. Now more than 200 are holding elections. Could this be the start of a wave?
I think we will definitely see more Amazon warehouses file for union elections within the next months and years. We saw renewed interest in unionizing Amazon after the Bessemer campaign last year, a successful victory against Amazon, a company that many union organizers previously thought was unorganizable. People thought that we would never have a union at Amazon. That, I think, will certainly lead to renewed interest in organizing at the company.
Certainly interesting to see some momentum coming out of this. But like you said, Katherine, a very small union, and their work has really just begun. Katherine Leong covers Amazon for Business Insider. Really appreciate your time.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Before we go, KUOW's spring membership drive is still on. Seattle Now listeners, we need your help on this last day of the drive to meet our goal. $2 a month, maybe $5 a month, or even a one-time gift. Whatever you can afford makes this show possible, and we bring it to you every weekday. There's a link in our show notes to donate, and mention Seattle Now. We'll give you a shout out by name on the show. Thanks. Clare McGrane produced today's show. Matt Jorgensen does our theme music. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you tomorrow.